Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps out a lot. So one of the most common questions I get at video game conventions, at book autographings or whatever, is how come you don't do import games? Why don't you write about import games? You don't really talk about them. You're just not into them. Why don't you write about import games? Why not do a Famicom book? So I do have 5 reasons. I've been thinking about this lately, why I don't do import games. And before I get to that, very briefly, I have nothing against import games. As a matter of fact, I remember when Crazy Climber, the classic, the first climbing game, when it came to the Japanese PlayStation, it didn't come to the US. And I was really jealous because I thought it would be awesome to play Crazy Climber with, the dual analog joysticks on the PlayStation. I thought that would be awesome. Never came to the US. Now I played on the Switch with dual sticks, so that's been amended, somehow or in some small way. But anyway, never got that PlayStation Crazy Climber. And so I thought that was really cool. It was only in Japan. And I know there's a lot of Japanese exclusives that Americans get jealous over. And another thing, like my friend, he's got this incredible collection of Sega Dreamcast shooters, side-scrolling shooters and vertical shooters that are just awesome imports that were only in Japan, not released in the US, and they look amazing. I'd love to play those. But I do have 5 reasons that I'm just not really into imports and just haven't spent much time with them, don't write books about them and that kind of thing. So number 5, I can't really stand being in an airplane for longer than 3.5 hours. So I've never traveled to Japan. I would love to check out, the gaming culture over there and go on buying trips and just, you can get NES, Famicom and Super Famicom games for super cheap over there. And I could amass these amazing collections just by traveling. I know that I have friends that will bring back suitcases full of games and just have these great import collections. I just don't travel like that because I just cannot stand being in an airplane longer than 3.5 hours. I would just have to jump out because I just get crazy. Now I know people say, well, hey, just take this and that and, just pop a pill and have a drink or whatever. It's like, I just don't like being in an airplane that long. So I may never visit Japan, which is just, such an important area for gaming, and so that's number 5. I just don't travel to those areas. Number 4, and I just didn't grow up playing these kinds of games. The books I write about, such as my first book, Classic Home Video Games 72 through 84, I grew up playing these, and I just knew them, so many of them in the back of my hand. I did not grow up playing Japanese video games or, things in the European market or whatever. So that's just a big part. A lot of this is nostalgia. And so I just don't have nostalgia for the foreign market. And number 3, this ties a little bit into number 5. I just don't have access to a lot of these games. When I wrote my earlier books, like the one I just showed you, the Classic Home Video Games books in the series, and my NES Omnibus, I would go around looking for games to fill in holes in my collection. I do have a massive game collection and I had to borrow a lot of games. I don't know that many people with import games I could borrow, and I just don't have them already. And I did go around, with the Classic Home Video Game series, I did go around filling in holes in my collections just for games I needed that nobody could loan me or that I didn't already have. And couldn't really do that with imports. So number 3, I just don't have access to the games. Number 2, I just don't know much about the import market. It's nothing I've really spent a lot of time studying. Now I will look up some things from here and there. Like when I was working on the NES Omnibus, I would compare like the NES version, maybe to the Famicom version in some cases. So I have done some research, but it's just not my field of expertise. I just don't know a ton about the import market. And I figure there are other people more suited to writing about import games than me, such as Kurt Kalata, of Hardcore Gaming 101, who co-wrote this, The Complete Guide to the Famicom Disk System. Really cool. I bought it from Kurt at a convention. Really nice looking book, very well written. And I bought it because it's complete, and I think that's really neat. And if somebody does a complete Famicom book, I would probably pick that up, if it was really well done. So I just figured there are other people more suited to do it because it's just not my strong point. And the number 1 reason, I just don't have time. I just don't have a ton of time to put into import games because the books I write about, you know, trying to cover basically the entire U.S. Retro market. Like this book, just my first book of, you know, 12, including the 2 NES Omnibuses, Omnibuy, however you want to say it. This book covers every game before the, you know, released, for every system that was released before the NES. So with covering basically the entire American market, it's really hard to find time to just do much with imports. And if I ever do get heavily involved in imports or explore that more, it'd be nice to just kind of do it as a hobby. So I suppose if I had number 0 on the list, it would be because if I do imports, I just want it to be a hobby and I don't want to have to worry about writing about them or anything like that. Now I want to show you real quickly, I do have some imports in my collection, a pitifully small collection of imported games. So one thing I do have a Super Famicom, which is neat. My brother-in-law and sister got me this on a trip to Japan to see my nephew, their son Chris, and it's really neat, a brand new Super Famicom, and I have played, they got me a game with it too, Rockman X, which I can only assume is Mega Man X, and do love me some Mega Man, so it's really neat to have that game, and I do plan to add to my collection of Super Famicom games, just haven't gotten around to it. And like I said before, just don't have access to a ton of these kinds of games. I do see import games at shows from time to time, so I do plan on adding to that collection. I would love to get an original Famicom as well. That would be awesome. Don't have that one. Just a few other things, odds and ends I have, imports. I have Aerial Assault for the Sega Game Gear. Now you can play imports. You can play Japanese games on your regular Game Gear that was released in the US, and I do enjoy this game a lot. It's a side-scrolling shooter, but I found this for $2.99 just at Movie Trading Company, and they don't typically deal with imports. They just sort of had this out in the regular section for $2.99. It was a no-brainer, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. Good side-scrolling shooter. I have Tasmania for the Megadrive, and you can play Megadrive games on the 3rd iteration of the Sega Genesis, I believe it's called the Sega Genesis 3. So I do have that, and I can play Tasmania on that. So that's pretty cool. I think I found this at a gaming show for like $4, and it was just too cheap to pass up, so I grabbed it. Last but not least, for the Master System, I have the Flash based on the television series, which is pretty neat. You can see the design of the costume and character, you know, the central figure. Looks like Flash from the TV show, you know, kind of the bulky costume, the John Wesley Shipp character. And this was produced, you know, in the early 90s. That show just lasted 1 season, but it did get a little bit of memorabilia, including this game. And you can play imported Master System games on a standard Master System, which is pretty awesome. Anyway, there you have it. The one question I get, probably more than any other, at least top 2 or 3, is why I don't play import games. Let me know in the comments, are you guys into imports? What do I need to know? What systems should I pick up? What games should I play? Because I would like to pursue it as a hobby, not a job, not a book writing venture, but just as a hobby. So let me know in the comments what imports you guys like and enjoy. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for hitting that like button. And thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. We will talk to you guys later.